And in fact, that's exactly what happened. In fact, it happened in 14 years, 1 year ahead of schedule, and just a little bit under budget. So that's a perfect example. Right now, we can map the human genome in 1 month for $50,000. And we're headed for a $10,000 genome over the next couple of years, and pretty soon we'll be down to $1,000 and $100, and we'll be mapping these things in not months or weeks or days, but in minutes. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of technology that's driving this research, and that's one of the reasons we're going to be able to cure aging, in spite of the fact we haven't been able to cure cancer and heart disease.
Well, and I think that you call it the law of accelerated returns, but it's also, I think other people describe it as Moore's law, which is the founder of Intel, the big computer chip company. But it's not only that the power of the computing power doubles every 18 months or maybe even a year now, but the other factor and part of the equation, which you alluded to but didn't mention specifically, is that the cost goes down by 50%.
That's another point.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, the Human Genome Project, it cost $3 billion, and now it costs $50,000. You just look at look at the technologies we have now. When I was in college, when I graduated from college in 1965, we had mainframe computers that took a whole building, or most of a building. It filled up huge giant rooms, air-conditioned rooms, and the computer you have in your cell phone right now is about 1,000 times more powerful than that mainframe computer, 1,000,000 times smaller, and 1,000,000 times cheaper. Yeah. So that's exactly the point you were trying to make, Joe.
Yeah, that same computer chip in your cell phone is a lot more powerful than any computer that went up on the initial space programs. I mean, it's just profoundly more.
Oh yeah, and then we're talking about cell phones. If you compare those mainframe computers with the supercomputers of today, you're talking about billions of times more powerful.
Yeah, so it's just really exciting because we can leverage this improvement in technology and the cost of technology of doing that to some really noble goals, and certainly one of the best that I could think of is this aging process which you're committed to. So typically, life is a challenge for many people, especially with the economy now and the manipulation that occurs by many largely influential corporations and individuals. So it's a lot of people are just glad when they're over with it and on to the next dimension. So what's your justification as to why would anyone want to live longer considering what's going on today?
Well, I mean, we've always had problems and challenges that we had to face, and it doesn't matter when we lived. I mean, imagine if you were alive 100,000 years ago. I mean, you're faced every day with the challenge of going out and finding or killing enough food to feed yourself and your family, or you face starvation. I mean, talk about challenges and stress. I mean, it's almost unimaginable. We have our stresses now with technology, but technology also makes things a lot easier. And I mean, gee, if you're 100,000 years ago when you went out to hunt something, you could end up being the hunted. And there's real stress. You can go out if you go out into the wilds. I mean, you're being chased just like you're chasing, and we're going to continue to have stressful situations, challenges in the future. I actually look forward to them. A little stress is actually what makes you grow. You stress a muscle, and your muscle grows. You stress your mind, you stretch your mind, and it grows. I just don't see anything changing other than the type of challenges we're having, Joe.
The stress is important. Many people believe that they would want a stress-free life, but as you alluded to, and Hans Selye, I think, was one of the main thinkers on this, is when he did his research with stress, is that you do need stress to stay healthy, and exercise is a type of stress, and we all know what happens if you don't exercise.
Sure. And what it does is it stresses your muscles, and your muscles grow. It also relieves the stress on your mind. We want to get away from the chronic stress. But just think if we were able to live longer. We were living in an infinite universe, a universe with infinite possibilities and infinite adventures. And I really look forward to the day when we can take advantage of some of these adventures that we can't even imagine today. And, you know, there's one more thing. Don't forget the technologies that we're developing. There are neural implants, neural stimulation, things like that. Those will be ways to counter emotions. We've had people with behavior modification specializations for many, many years, treating depression and overly stressed people. And an extension of that is going to be better ways to treat emotions. And I think we're going to be able to be able to alter our negative emotions at some point in the near future, actually pretty near future.
That's exciting. So again, on the devil's advocate frame and perspective, some people might counter that it's against nature to tamper with lifespans, that we have this sort of God-given mandate to terminate our existence at about 120 maximum, and you really can't exceed that limit. So how would you counter that argument or concern?
That I hear that quite a bit, but is it against nature? Yeah, sure. Ever since man invented the wheel, we've been doing something counter to nature. The technology we're using today for this conference or for this interview, I mean, talk about interfering with nature. This isn't natural. What's natural is going out and foraging even without tools, looking for food, grubbing for food, trying to wrestle an animal to death to eat it. That's nature. Survival of the fittest. I mean, we've come way beyond that. And then is 120, is that really the limit that we've had historically? Well, if you look at the biblical stories, I mean, did man ever really live for 800 or 900 years or 700 years? I think, God gave us a brain, and He gave us a way to figure out solutions to problems. And I think that if God didn't really want us to, and if you're religious, I mean, because we get a lot of people saying God doesn't want this to happen or that happen. If He really didn't want us to make this progress, why would He have given us the ability to cure diseases, to make life more comfortable, to live longer? I mean, why would He want to see us suffer and die unnecessarily? I think that this kind of technology just could bring us closer to God, never maybe quite reaching or understanding. But I just, is it interfering with nature? Absolutely, absolutely. We do everything we do interferes with nature. That's what makes us human instead of an animal.
Well, from a biological perspective, there would be another argument that I guess it's natural for us to live to our ability to reproduce, which of course for most ends about 50, but for men it can extend beyond that. But for women, certainly about 50 is the age.
Yeah.
So, and then we've got a pretty significant cushion beyond that for the most part, 120. But many people rapidly die off after that reproductive age. So, is there any biological way to address that concern?
Sure. Typically, gene engineering, genomics, addressing the problem that way, nanotechnology, nanomedicine, the ways to repair your cells at a molecular level. If you can repair your cells at a molecular level, then that's the holy grail of life extension. Artificial general intelligence, speeding up that's where machines can think and reason as well as human beings. Can you imagine having the capability of a PhD equivalent? We've seen the game show Jeopardy. We saw Watson beating everybody on the game show, beating the champions, and that's just a glimpse of it that's going to be happening with artificial intelligence. Now imagine you taking a Watson but making that computer 1,000 times smarter, 1,000 times more interactive, and giving it an equivalent of a PhD in gerontology, and then backing it up and making hundreds or thousands of them and using those as lab assistants who never get tired, have perfect total recall. They can work together. They can work with humans as lab assistants. And imagine if you would unleash this artificial intelligence on the problems that are facing mankind today, including aging, and especially in my case, in my field is aging, but it could be almost anything: food production, environmental cleanup, averting or mitigating disasters like we saw in Japan. artificial intelligence would have many, many ways to be able to address those problems, and much faster, much more efficiently. And that's another reason, besides the law of accelerating returns, that we'll be able to see some huge advances in our lifetime.
Now, how would you address the concern that some people have that we should be spending these resources on feeding the hungry rather than keeping people alive longer?
Again, I don't see that as a choice. Obviously, we want to feed the hungry. And the best way to feed the hungry is through technology, the same technologies in many cases that are going to let us live longer. But what I really find ironic is some people saying, well, people should move aside and free those resources up for people that are starving. Well, the aside are typically the best assets we have, the most fertile minds. The elderly are the ones that have the most wisdom. They have the most experience. They have the best networks. They have the best ability to solve these problems. They have the best ability to work together and to teach the younger generations, and we're letting them deteriorate. We're letting them decline, and we're losing them at the rate of 100,000 a day. And one that you're familiar with, Dr. McCullough, is Robert Bradbury. He was one of the participants, one of the scientists at our conference in Manhattan Beach in 2009, and one of the leading thinkers in the world. Hardly anybody ever heard of him. He probably had a wider breadth of knowledge in life extension and aging, and a deeper the depth of knowledge than maybe anybody on this planet. One of the most innovative minds in the world, and he suddenly died, unexpectedly died. He's irreplaceable. And here was an example of a person that was working on technologies that would give us clean energy, that would give us inexpensive, pure food, in addition to letting us live longer. And how many people like Robert do we lose just routinely? How many great scientific and business minds and social minds do we lose that are basically irreplaceable? And we want to keep these people alive. So it's not a choice. It's not, if we stopped all the aging research, we're not going to suddenly have a lot of money left over for the starving. It actually works opposite. If we keep those people alive, we're going to have much more money and much more technology available.
All right. Well, thank you for addressing many of the major objections to this line of thinking and areas of research. So if you've listened till now, then you're probably excited about some of the specifics as to how you might be able to apply it. So I'm wondering if you could enlighten us about some of the most promising research that's now going on.
There's some interesting things happening. In genomics, for example, we had a researcher who spent 33 years studying the evolutionary biology and how people adapt and how animals adapt, and he engineered evolution with very short-lived animals through multiple generations, hundreds or thousands of generations. And he's come up with he's identified aging genes that are common to humans, and has identified ways to trigger those genes to turn them on or turn them off, to express the genes, and hopefully let us live a lot longer. And he just came out with the company just came out with a supplement that I know you looked at, and that was the Stem Cell 100. And that's an amazing supplement that shows that lab animals living a whole lot longer. In humans, so far, you can't measure lifespans in humans because we live too long anyway, but we'll be able to get a pretty good idea if it's going to let us live longer. But we have this product on the market right now. It lowers the blood pressure, it lowers blood glucose levels, it increases HDL, it does a lot of amazing things, gives more energy. And this is just the tip of the iceberg on some of the genomics research that's coming out. We're all familiar, at least most of us are, with caloric restriction. That's eating less, but keeping your food nutritious, keeping your intake nutritious. And it's the only proven way to extend the maximum lifespan in mammals. And we talked about not being able to extend the maximum lifespan in humans. Every indication is caloric restriction can extend maximum lifespan somewhat in humans, certainly extends the average lifespan, and certainly makes us almost immune to a lot of the diseases we talked about. And the problem is restricting your calories by 30% from what we should be eating.